My grandmother's 74 years had finally come to an end. Ever since I could remember, we had lived in the same house. Her will was clear. The property would be mine, but out of respect, I had to leave all the paintings and furniture exactly where they were. When I was a child and climbed to the second floor to bring her soup when she was sick, I always walked down the hallway staring at the floor. I couldn't make myself look at that horrible painting on the wall. It showed an elderly woman with a piercing stare. No one had ever told me anything about her, but because of the inheritance, I couldn't move the painting from its place. One day, like any other, I woke up to make breakfast and I almost dropped my cup when I noticed the smallest difference in the painting. The woman was now staring at empty space with a dark, unsettling look, as if her entire facial expression had changed. She was frowning, as if trying to see something far away. It was a detail so subtle it might have been easy to ignore, yet it terrified me. In that shock, I did the only thing I could think of. I threw a sheet over the painting. The fabric hung there in a way that fully covered it. All day long, I walked past the hallway in complete calm, not having to look at that face, that gaze. When night fell, I heard a faint noise. I went to the hallway to see where it came from, and I realized the sheet had fallen. My heart lurched. The elderly woman's face was smiling. It was a cruel, vicious smile. Her ruined teeth showed, and her face was twisted with exaggerated wrinkles. I never understood why my grandmother valued that painting so much, and I also couldn't understand why it hadn't seemed horrible to her the way it did to everyone else. It was a Tuesday, very early in the morning. I nearly had a heart attack over something I saw. I was drinking my coffee when I noticed a head appearing from the edge of the door, watching me. I screamed loud enough that it must have carried through the entire neighborhood, and the head quickly disappeared. I ran into the hallway to look. There was nothing there. Nothing except that painting, again changed. Her expression was serious now. I knew, absolutely knew, that the head I had seen was hers. Somehow, she had stretched her neck to watch what I was doing. The next night I decided to do something I thought would be smarter. I placed a small camera in front of the painting, intending to confirm whether the source was real, or if the painting was somehow moving on its own and I'd been imagining it. The security camera had a hard drive that could record for 3 days. During those days I would have to leave town. When I came back, I went straight up to the second floor and checked the painting and what the camera had caught. The painting had changed again. Now the elderly woman looked angry, her face full of rage and fury. Her eyes, I swear, seemed to burn with hatred. I reviewed the footage from the 3 days I was gone. Nothing happened during the first part, until night. That's when I clearly saw her head turn as if checking both sides, maybe searching for anyone nearby. Then I watched as her neck stretched out, and the head came out of the painting for real. Her neck extended and extended as her face swept along the hallway, curious and searching. When she finally returned to her position, her expression shifted back to a smile. The following morning I saw her repeat the same procedure. But this time, after she returned to her usual spot, she began to move more. She was coming out of the painting completely. I watched in horror as she left it and stood in the hallway. An extremely tall woman, almost twice my height. Not because of a normal body size, but because her neck was stretched far beyond anything human. She walked through the house searching for something, shouting my grandmother's name, stumbling over the furniture. When she returned to the painting, her face was filled with the same hatred I had seen before. That was when I had enough. I gathered my courage and decided to get rid of the painting. As soon as I touched it to remove it from the wall, the elderly woman shoved her arms out through the painting and tried to strangle me. Her fingers dug into my neck, cutting off my air. I was being killed. I couldn't breathe. I felt myself weakening, when somehow I managed to break free and throw the painting away. Her arms retreated back into the painting, but she kept staring at me with hatred. Even worse now, Her face looked even more disheveled and ugly. I called my father immediately, trying to tell him what had happened. I knew he wouldn't believe me. He'd think I was insane or using drugs or something like that. But when I began explaining it, my father stopped me. "My son," he said, struggling to speak, "the elderly woman from that painting is your great-grandmother. She died in a very peculiar way," he told me. "She had suffered from a terrible depression. One day she couldn't take it anymore and hanged herself." Those words shook me. Yes, suicide was strange and tragic, but she hadn't just died. She had tried to murder me. I couldn't get the explanation out to my father. I was going to keep calling, keep searching for a solution, until he told me one final thing. "My son," he said, "your grandmother painted that picture. She finished it the same day your great-grandmother took her own life. She asked to have it painted because, according to her, through the painting she would watch over herself while she remained trapped by any person who might want to hurt her." He paused and then added, almost as if it made everything click, "And by the way, my phone died." I sprinted into the hallway. The painting was empty. My great-grandmother's face wasn't there. At that moment I felt a cold breath against my back. She was there, the extremely tall elderly woman, the guardian angel of my grandmother. She looked at me for a few seconds with those eyes full of hatred, full of revenge. The painting saw everything. It knew. I was sure it had seen how I brought my grandmother soup, a soup loaded with poison, and how she ignored my grandmother's screams as she died in agony. The resident of that painting knew who was responsible for my grandmother's death. And maybe my grandmother herself suspected it. Maybe that was the reason she demanded in her will that the painting always remain in the house. The painting woman began strangling me. My breathing stopped completely. Then I heard footsteps in the house, coming up the stairs. In an instant, my great-grandmother returned into the painting while keeping that hateful expression on her filthy, decayed face. The footsteps were my sister coming home. Unknowingly, she had saved my life. I told her to take that horrible painting and store it in the basement. While she carried it away, I could see my great-grandmother staring at me with more hatred than ever. I never entered the basement again. Even years later, at night, I could hear the basement handle rattling and trying to open in desperation, vainly, as if someone wanted to get out. Then, a few weeks ago, straw bundles began moving away from the house. Every morning I woke up and saw each bundle shifted a few meters from where it had been. I assumed it was some prank, people with limited creativity, but I ignored it. In a few days, the bundles started edging toward the edge of the farm. I was sick of the game, and I decided to put them back where they belonged. It took me an entire tedious hour to reset them, placing them near the house again. By then, I was ready to break the neck of whoever was bothering me. The next morning, I found my horses decapitated. The smell woke me first. Each one lay on its side inside the stable. There were no signs of the heads anywhere. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up the mess and burying what was left. That's when I noticed the straw bundles had returned, back to the positions from the previous day, scattered again farther away. This time I left them where I found them. I was resigned. I had more important concerns than whatever those bundles were supposed to mean, my horses. Whoever did this would pay for such an atrocity. That night I sat on the porch with my shotgun, a cup of coffee on the table beside me. I stayed there for hours, staring at the fields, trying to catch the person, or people, moving my straw bundles. I started to fall asleep, but I didn't fully doze off because, right as my eyes began to close, I heard the nearby forest trees shake and tremble. I jolted awake with my heart pounding. I walked toward the spot with my shotgun. I had to catch that bastard. So I waited, tense, hoping someone would come close enough for me to surprise them. Then something moved close enough for me to make out its silhouette in the dark. The thing lurking in the nearby woods didn't seem to notice me even though I was sitting only a short distance away. Its shape was hunched, still, it was about 4 meters tall. It looked fragile. Thin arms and legs, a chest like an animal dying of hunger. But it was unbelievably strong. I saw it carry a straw bundle under each arm with ease, placing them carefully far away from my farm. I watched it work, moving bundle after bundle with the same careful attention. Every so often it straightened a little, searching the field for more. I noticed it kept looking toward my house, toward my direction. I felt its eyes sweep over me in the darkness, even if I couldn't be sure it had actually seen me. At that moment the thing turned silently and returned the way it came, slipping back into the darkness of the forest. It took me a long time, an hour, maybe, to recover enough courage to move, to manage even a single muscle. I went into the house as soon as I could, but I didn't sleep that night. Not until morning, when the sun came up, did I finally step out onto the porch and toward the fields. The straw bundles were exactly where that thing had left them, but this time, it hadn't moved them as far away as on previous nights. The bundles seemed to mark some kind of line. As I walked around the house, I saw they formed a distinct circle around me. I realized the bundles were creating a boundary, as if that creature was sending a message. I slept a little that night only because I was exhausted beyond belief. The next morning there was no movement at all, no bundles. Not for the rest of the week, either. They were probably finally where that thing wanted them. I tried to interpret them. Why had it invested so much energy moving straw bundles? Why threaten me with such violence if I interfered? Killing my horses had been a warning. An intelligent warning. It knew it would scare me. It knew I would understand what it meant. Then one morning, the sound of a car passing near the road beside my farm sparked something in me. I had planned to leave the farm ever since I'd seen that thing, but I couldn't just walk away on foot without risking what it had done to my horses. If I could reach the approaching car, I could stop it no matter who was inside, even if I had to throw myself onto the road. I never got the chance. The car moved slowly down the road. I motioned for it to speed up, but that was when it passed between 2 straw bundles placed on either side of the road, and in the woods there was a sudden crash. The creature burst out immediately from between the trees. It ran on its 4 weak, terrible limbs straight toward the car like a predator. In an instant it launched itself onto the vehicle like a cat hunting its prey. In seconds it was chewing through the metal housing of the car as if it were fruit, trying to reach the driver. The man, whoever he was screaming, while all I could hear was the cracking metal and breaking glass. Then the creature crushed him in one of its hands. Until then, he kept shouting. Then the sound stopped. It threw him into the field and straightened up to look at me again. In full daylight, I could see the lack of humanity in it. It was made of something filthy, terrible, and alive, clumped together in a twisted mockery of a human form. It returned to the woods, and I could barely move. I had witnessed something I never thought was possible. I couldn't stop staring at where my chance to escape had died. I watched the car still running, caught between the 2 straw bundles. And I understood the message clearly. I wasn't allowed to leave. Now I was the prisoner of that thing. No one would be able to cross the boundaries it had set for me. I was trapped there, trapped by whatever watched from the fields. And I think it only asked one thing, that I remain. But I can't. I've been thinking all day. I'm going to try to escape.